All right, let's dive into something pretty powerful today. It's a narrative from Islamic tradition about the end times. And what's really fascinating is how it all starts. Not with some huge cataclysm, but with something incredibly small, almost like a whisper.
So the story opens in a way that's deeply familiar to so many people. You know, that quiet, pre-dawn darkness? And through it comes the call to the morning prayer, the Fajr. It's that moment that's meant for devotion, for starting your day on the right foot.
And right there, in that moment, a choice pops up. It's not some grand, world-changing decision, not at all. It's one of those small personal choices we all face every single day. The pull between doing what we ought to do and, well, staying comfortable.
This really frames that internal battle perfectly, doesn't it? On one hand, you have the call to prayer, this invitation to connect. And on the other, you have that warm bed, the powerful urge for just a little more sleep. In our story, comfort wins. The call is dismissed with a thought we've all probably had. I'll pray later. But here's the thing. That tiny, seemingly harmless choice, it becomes the pivot point for everything. The story takes a sharp turn right here, and the consequences of hitting the snooze button, so to speak, start to unfold in a truly terrifying way. So the person wakes up later, and not just a little bit later. Hours have passed. The clock on the wall says it's 10 a.m., you know, a time when the sun should be high in the sky, the world should be bright, but something is very, very wrong.
And that's the question that just hangs in the air, thick with confusion and this growing sense of dread.
The clock says one thing, but the world outside is still cloaked in the darkness of night. The day just hasn't arrived.
So what we're talking about here is a complete breakdown of the natural order. I mean, the sun is pretty much the most reliable thing in our lives, and it has just failed to show up. And as that reality starts to sink in, that confusion quickly morphs into genuine alarm.
When a law of nature, that fundamental, is broken, where do you even turn for answers? It's a natural human instinct, right? In a moment of absolute crisis, you reach for your ultimate source of truth, for guidance.
You can just feel the urgency here. Faced with this impossible darkness, the very first reaction is to find the scripture. It's this desperate scramble for an anchor in a world that has suddenly, completely come unmoored.
So they find the holy book. You can imagine them opening it, hands probably shaking, just expecting, needing to find some comfort, some prophecy, anything that can explain what is happening.
And this is the gut punch, the absolute peak of the horror. The book is opened, but the words are gone. The divine message, the guidance that has been a constant for centuries, has just vanished. This is the moment of ultimate loss.
Just take a second to picture that. Not a single letter, not one verse. Just blank, white pages where sacred text used to be. It represents a world left completely without divine communication, a spiritual silence that is so much more terrifying than the physical darkness outside. Now, this terrifying event isn't just some random occurrence. Within Islamic tradition, this exact moment is understood as the fulfillment of a very specific and very dire prophecy. To really get the weight of this, we have to understand the concept of Qiyamah. This is the day of judgment, the end of the world as we know it. So the events in our story aren't just strange things happening, they're seen as major signs that this final day is here. And here is the prophecy itself. It states that just before the end, the Quran will literally be lifted from the world. Its words will be removed from the pages and taken back up to the heavens. So the prophecy describes this happening incredibly fast, like over a single day and night. The text vanishes, the book is raised, and that serves as one of the final, undeniable warnings that the day of judgment has arrived. The story we just followed maps onto this prophecy perfectly. So what's the takeaway from this incredibly powerful and, frankly, unsettling story? It's not just a tale about the apocalypse, it actually carries a pretty profound message for us, right here and now. The story's message is really clear. The opportunity we have for faith, for prayer, for that spiritual connection, it's a gift, but it's not a permanent one. The whole thing kicks off with a simple act of procrastination. I'll pray later, and it ends in a world where later has completely run out. Let's just quickly recap that chain of events. It starts small, with one ignored prayer. That leads to a massive sign that the world is broken, the unnatural dawn.
which then reveals an even deeper spiritual crisis, the blank scripture. Each step is an escalation, a warning that just becomes impossible to ignore.
And that leaves us with this final, challenging question. The story presents a warning that is absolute, totally undeniable. And it makes you wonder, if the signs in our own lives were this clear, if the consequences of our choices were this immediate and dramatic, how would we act? What would we prioritize? That's a powerful thought to end on.